I called this the Dog Ate My Business Plan because I've heard fantastic reasons why most print businesses don't have a plan. So this is entitled Why Businesses Fail to Grow, because my experience has been that most print businesses never plan for growth in any way, and if they do, it tends not to be done in a formal way. Oh, this is me. This is what I did. I started my print experience not really being a printer. I created a product, and that product was calendars and personalised gifts. I'm going to look at Vanessa and you too. And that was my launch into print, and I created a commercial print business from that base. So I never came into print having been a printer. I came into print from a product end. I created a product, I produced it, and I sold it. I then developed some software internally, which we launched in about 2007, and that software was a web-to-print software called Red Tie, which was very successful and became known around the world. Since I sold that business, I've been consulting, and my consultancy is based around helping print businesses, specifically in this industry, grow and develop. The one thing it doesn't say up there is how passionate I am about the industry. I absolutely love print. I love everything around it, and I've had a fantastic career in an industry that most people think is quite a difficult one, and I've loved it all the way through. Ooh, I'm not very good with technology yet. I'm doing really, really badly. So very often when I'm speaking, people say to me, oh, well, the whole industry is declining. It's not as good as it was. It's not great anymore. But you know what? I don't agree. I think we are still the most amazing industry. And for every time somebody comes up with a reason why print is declining, I can give them 10 reasons why it's growing. It's a fantastic industry to be in. And it's something that is always at the heart of marketing and communications. However much our own industry talk it down, we are still right in the heart of any communications. So what is it that we should be doing as an industry, and how do we as an industry grow? I think that the smart money is not on just talking about growing capacity. Of course we do that, and of course that's part of our journey and part of what we do. But the smart money is about creating new markets and developing print that didn't exist before the internet and the web and all the modern technologies got involved. If you're smart as a printer, you don't want to just be looking at what happens now and trying to bid for it. You want to be looking at how you develop print that was never there before you entered the conversation, trying to encourage customers and educate customers to develop their own thinking around the way they market their products and services. And as an industry, we are phenomenally bad at doing that. We spend a lot of time talking about production and capacity and very little time about telling our customers how we innovate and how we can grow their businesses. So I believe the future of print is about adding value to the services we offer. The times I go into businesses and I ask them what their growth plan is, and their growth plan is usually that they're going to buy something and they're going to fill it. They're going to buy that capacity and then they're going to work out how they fill it once they've bought the capacity. And that's a classic story in the industry about looking at production. Of course that matters, that's part of our role. But it's not the only thing we should be doing. If all we do is fill capacity, we will always be on a spiral of price-led product. That's all we'll ever do. So if adding capacity is plan A, what the hell is plan B and what does it look like? And to me, plan B is about building a really robust plan that isn't around capacity growth. It's around the added value sale. So what does added value look like? And to me, it's not just one thing. There's no easy, quick answer. It's different for every single business I deal with. Sometimes added value is about cross-media. Sometimes it's about enabling customers communicating across more channels to be able to communicate more effectively with print in the middle. And I've gone into a number of businesses and been out to see their customers, businesses that are committed to only using digital channels, and persuaded them to use print in some form or another, whether it be posters, advertising, direct mail, and we've seen a significant growth in that cross-media marketing. So sometimes it's simply about putting your product into the middle of an existing marketing campaign. Sometimes it's about adding value to the core product. I've worked a lot with several larger manufacturers looking at how they track posters and track large format print, and adding apps and tracking devices to things like barcodes, augmented reality, the trackable print side of the business. And it's amazing how many end customers don't necessarily have that information from their printer. The printer will react when asked, but isn't keen to go out there and discuss it. So sometimes added value is simply about enhancing your existing product. Sometimes it's about solving problems. Sometimes it's about working with a customer to look at the analytics behind a campaign and using our knowledge of tracking print, of cross-media, of gathering information, and enhancing and adding value simply by managing data. That could be one way of adding value. But it doesn't have to be that complex. I've worked on some great projects where the added value have been pick and pack, drop ship, direct mailings, postage. I've added value in very simple ways. And in these instances, it's never about the technology, it's always about the sale and about how you approach customers to deliver a sale that says this is going to add value to your business. And sometimes it's about production, packaging what you do really well up as a product. I've worked with a company that developed wallpapers for children's bedrooms. All it is a bunch of posters, but marketed and sold as a product in a way that we would never think in the print industry to market and sell. And that was what I did. I had hubs up selling calendars, and in an age in about 2004, when generally most people in England were getting something like 30 pence a sheet off their digital presses of sale price, I was getting £3 a sheet by making my service a product, making it a school diary, making it a calendar, making it a marketing pack for Suzuki. I sold them as product, not as sheets of paper. So sometimes adding value is just putting a product around your core product and developing something that looks like it's worth more value, even though the core product is no different. It's just a piece of large format print. Adding value doesn't have to be complicated. So to me, the biggest barrier in this sale of added value and growing business is generally about having a robust business plan, something that stacks up. And in general, most printers are very bad, and most people in this industry are very bad at developing a really robust business plan. Have you got a documented business plan, you guys? Yeah, I love you. Well done. So the first type of businesses that I see that don't have a plan and don't believe they need to change and don't believe they can add value are the guys that say, do you know what, our customers they've never changed. They've been buying stuff from us for 30 years. They're never going to change, and we don't need to change. And my response to that is absolutely you do, because whatever you think your customers want, you can't be sure that they are not changing, and that even if the buyers today aren't changing, the generation behind them are internet savvy and are definitely changing. These businesses typically... No, I can't, it's back again. We are stuck. Never look outside. When you see me do that, you're going to have to move it on. Never look outside the business. They are great believers that the industry is in decline, and all they have to do is wait it out until their competitors go bust or the market changes. They don't believe they need to make a plan for adding value to their services. And these businesses generally are often owner, MD, older guys that have been in the industry, came from production, and they don't believe they need to make any changes. The next type of business that I deal with a lot are businesses that go, do you know what, this is great, Marian, it's really clever and we love it, but we're just so busy we cannot possibly implement any changes or add any value to anything we do because we are just too busy. They're probably chasing their tails and working hard and not necessarily smart. If there is any sort of plan, the culture in the business doesn't allow it to be followed because the culture in the business is just to run around. Vanessa and I were dealing with a business a while ago where the MD did the classic thing and said to me, you know, Marian, your plan's great, we love it, we see it, we could grow, but we have no time. We're just going to keep muddling along as we are because we can't put the time in to develop a plan that would give us growth. that business is in, we believe now, in terminal trouble because it just doesn't have the time to make that plan. The third one, which is my favourite, is the guys that say to me, do you know what, we're going to rival Vistaprint in 5 years' time. We've got the most fantastic plan, we're going to go online, I've got a friend who's built me a website, we've got SEO going. And, you know, my first question is, do you really have $10 million to do this? Because this type of business, they may have written a plan, but it's unrealistic, it's never been verified, it hasn't been followed through. It's really not a good, robust plan. I've dealt with a few companies that have spent, in their terms, a huge amount of their development budget on completely unrealistic projects because they didn't do the planning stage and didn't really understand what it was their customers would buy. So, how do you build an added value plan that makes sense for your business today? How do you take a business that's traditionally production and take it step by step through an added value plan? The first thing you need to do is understand what your customers might buy from you that you make profitably. And the last bit of that sentence is really interesting. I've been with businesses, traditional large format businesses, traditional volume application businesses that have looked to do a direct-to-consumer application, but their business in no way could ever deal with individual small orders. Their workflow isn't correct for it. They haven't thought through the full implications of implementing a consumer product, and the project fails because the business is not set up for it. Those same businesses, however, if you step back and look, could potentially work with partners who are already dealing with the end consumer to give a good product. But it's about understanding your business and the way you work and your products and services and deciding how you could take those to market in a way that your customers would buy. And if you're not set up to deal with the end consumer, maybe you can't do it. Maybe you need to be looking for production through third parties. But whatever you do, you have to have a good look at your current capacity and what you can do. The second thing is always a classic. If you don't have a robust business plan with a good cash flow understanding, you won't really know the impact on your existing business. Again, I've seen businesses that have taken on a really good idea and fallen flat because they never truly understood the price it was going to cost them to implement that plan, and not having good cash flow budgets, not understanding that taking resource from one area of the business and putting it into another can have an impact is an absolute no. And also credibility. Again, I've been with businesses that have said, we've bought really great software, we've bought XMPie or Direct Smile, we're going to be cross-media, kings and queens. And when they walk in front of a customer, because they don't understand what they're doing, and I know Vanessa's going to talk a bit about training, they end up not being credible because they haven't really taken the trouble to learn what they are saying to the customer, and they revert back to type of being a printer the minute they get in front of a customer. So what you need to do is the background. This bit of background investigation is so important because without it you can't do a good plan. Look at the competitors in the market, understand your own market better, do customer surveys and questionnaires, be ballsy and go out and see your customers and say, look, we're thinking of opening this division, we're going to do this stuff, what do you think, would you buy from us? Customer surveys and questionnaires are a really good way of understanding what your customers would buy and what their perception of you as a provider are. So do that background research and make it the basis of your plan. And it doesn't have to be huge. Again, I've worked on projects where we've started off by looking at very small changes, taking tiny areas of the business and just coming up with a small product idea and launching it in a very tiny way, which has had hardly any impact on the business, but has been treated as a project in its own right. So we've been able to monitor it, understand it, and work with it, which means that we've understood the next phase of growth. You don't have to suddenly turn yourself into something different to start a small new division, fund it, understand it, and go forward with it. You need to write that plan and formally agree it. If you don't put actions, timescale, and if you don't understand who in the business is responsible, it'll disappear. If you make the busiest person in the business who's got less than 5% of their day free run a major part of your business growth, which should take them half their time, it'll go nowhere. Again, I've seen really good projects being run by somebody in pre-press who's had no time in the day, and even though the will was there, because they hadn't done that bit of formal understanding of what resource it would take from the business, it's gone nowhere. You need to make that plan cast in stone, measurable, and with timescales. And if the project doesn't work, it's as important to stop it in a timely way, as it is to continue it. So here's the 3 things you mustn't do when you add value. Try and become something you're not overnight. There was a large push by the OEMs a while ago that every printer had to become a print service, a marketing services provider. But you can't do that unless you've really done the research and become credible. You need to invest and train your people. You can't make that change in isolation. And if you're the MD of a small business and you don't take the rest of the team with you, it will definitely fail. You need to not expect... Oh, I've gone over one. No. I missed one. Help. See, technology failure. If you just buy software or buy capacity and haven't made that part of your plan to fill it, that will also fail. That's actually my number one thing. And again, you see people come to me and they say, Marian, we spent £100,000 on software and not one of our customers has used it. That's because there was no plan behind it. It was an investment in a product or an investment in capacity, not an investment in the plan. And it's often not a quick return on investment. If you do your plan right and you understand your buyers and you understand your market, we may be talking, even for the smallest of plans, that it may take you 6 months, a year to see that return. And by the time you've trained your people, you're not looking for a quick ROI. Don't start a new division and expect an instant success. Very often you'll have a few failures and you'll need to do a lot more training before you get there. So the investment can't be a purchase of something. It has to be an investment throughout the business in terms of training, people, planning. And if you get that right, very often you'll ditch something and you'll go again. When you get halfway through that plan, you'll think, do you know what? That really probably won't work. But you know what? This might work. That planning is absolutely essential if you're going to be right with your new added value service. If you get it right, here's 3 things that might very well happen if you get it right. You'll win more business, even if you simply start the journey of surveying your customers, understanding what they need. The fact you've opened up that conversation will win you more business. You'll definitely add value. If you start looking at your products and services and doing the research behind what you're doing, you will definitely add value to your existing core products, there is no doubt. As you go forward and you start to examine each area of your business, looking for the niche in what you do, examining every single job that comes across your desk and looking to see whether there's a niche market there that you could expand or an added value service you can send, you will definitely grow your business. If nothing else happens, that will definitely happen. When you think about adding value, you add it. It's when you don't think about it that you don't add it. It isn't about changing everything you do. The minute you start on your journey of adding value and doing that business plan, the plan itself will spin off a number of things that will happen. And as you go through it, the fact you start to train your people, and Vanessa's going to talk more about this, the fact you start to develop your business plan, look at your cash flow, you start to look at the things that aren't making you money and you start looking at the things that are making you money, you begin to take the business forward in a much more robust way. And in a number of ways, you start to grow your business. And this is my last thought. Even if you never sell an added value service, even if you go through this process and never actually develop anything else that's added value outside of your core business, because you start to change the customer conversation, because you begin to train your staff, because you begin to interrogate your accounts in a different way, you will grow. And I've worked with a number of print companies recently that have done that and called me in because they want to add a value product to their range of services. They've asked me to develop the business plan around that range of services. And then halfway through my engagement, we backtracked and just looked at growing the core business because we've seen opportunity that's come up from within the work we've done to say, well, actually, we're going to backtrack. And for 6 months, we're going to grow our existing business because when we come to add our value, we need more cash in the bank, we need a more robust sales offering, we need to actually shore up our existing business before we start to grow the added value services. So a lot of what happens in this journey is about the business process rather than per se adding an added value product and going forward with that. But it will work. A little bit early, but as there's only two of you watching me, I'm going to finish. Any questions from anyone?